Hi, my name is Jonathan Svitak, and I'm an attorney with the Shannon Law Group. We help individuals who've been injured or experienced side effects due to vaccines. And we do this by pursuing compensation through the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. So today we're going to talk about the tetanus shot. And typically, your medical provider will recommend getting a tetanus booster every 10 years. However, sometimes, if you experience an injury or cut yourself, or maybe get bitten by a dog, if you go to the hospital or the emergency room, they'll recommend you get a tetanus shot as well. And for the most part, you get a tetanus shot. It's administered intramuscularly into your upper arm, and you won't really experience any significant side effects. You might experience some soreness or swelling at the injection site, maybe a slight fever, but for the most part, these symptoms are going to go away after a day or two. However, there are two more significant injuries that are associated with the tetanus shot. One of them is SIRVA, or shoulder injury related to vaccine administration, and the other is called brachial neuritis. So first, SIRVA. SIRVA happens when the injection or the administration of the vaccine is done either in the wrong spot or at the wrong angle, and it causes inflammation of your shoulder joint. So the tendons, the ligaments, or the bursa becomes inflamed. What you're going to experience, typically right away, but over the course of the next 2 days, is severe pain in that shoulder. It's going to hurt to raise your arm, to reach across your body or behind your back, and eventually you'll have range of motion restriction and maybe even some weakness in that shoulder. Now, what you should do in that instance is seek medical treatment as soon as you can. Go to your doctor, tell them what happened, and what you'll hopefully get is some kind of diagnosis along the lines of impingement syndrome, frozen shoulder, a rotator cuff type injury, bursitis or tendonitis. Again, some kind of inflammatory injury. Now, regardless of what your diagnosis ends up being, most of the time your treatment is going to consist of pain medication, some anti-inflammatories perhaps, and of course the physical therapy. You may also get a steroid injection to try and calm down that inflammation. And if none of these conservative treatments work, you may be a candidate for surgery as well. So that's SIRVA. The other condition that I mentioned, associated with the tetanus shot, is called brachial neuritis. And brachial neuritis is really a peripheral neuropathy type injury. There's a bundle of nerves called the brachial plexus, and that travels from your spinal cord down through your arm, through your shoulder, and into your hand. And what happens, in certain cases with the tetanus shot is that this bundle of nerves becomes damaged, and you're going to experience severe pain in that upper arm and in your chest and your back. This should happen, if we're talking about a tetanus shot, somewhere between 2 and 28 days following that vaccine. And to know for sure if this is a brachial neuritis type injury, obviously if you're experiencing those symptoms, go see your doctor right away. You can explain to him or her what your symptoms are. They may be able to diagnose brachial neuritis clinically. However, most of the time, you'll undergo something like an EMG or a nerve conduction test to really confirm that diagnosis. Unfortunately, the treatment options for this, even though it is significantly painful, are limited. There's pain medications you can take. There's again, steroids that you can take to try to calm down the pain and the inflammation. And in rare cases, you may undergo a surgery to try to repair some of the nerves that have been damaged. But ultimately, it's an injury that can persist from months to maybe even longer, a year or more. So, depending on how severe the injury is. But these are the two injuries that are associated with the tetanus shot that are listed on the vaccine injury table. So if you believe that you've been injured by a vaccine, what are your options? Well, first I'd recommend contacting an attorney to figure out if you're eligible for the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And there's some criteria that would either prevent or allow you to file a petition in the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. First, you had to have received the vaccine in the United States. Now, there's some exceptions to that, but for the most part, if you've received the vaccine in the United States, you're going to be eligible to file. The vaccine that you received must be covered under the program. There's a list of vaccines that are included on the vaccine injury table. As long as you've received that vaccine, then you're eligible to file. The symptoms of your injury have to persist for at least 6 months. They call that the severity requirement. So if you've had symptoms of your injury for 6 months, you're going to be eligible. There's an exception to that as well. If your injury required a hospitalization and surgery, then it doesn't have to last 6 months in order to file. And lastly, to satisfy the Statute of Limitations, you have to file your petition within 3 years of the date of onset of your vaccine injury symptoms. And there are really no exceptions to that rule, so it's a strict 3-year deadline to get your petition on file. But if you meet all that criteria, you're free to file a petition in the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And that's what we do. We help people file petitions in that program. And once your petition is filed, your case will go through the regular process of review. So the first stage of the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program is called the entitlement phase, where we're going to determine whether you're entitled to compensation or not. They're going to review the vaccine that you received, the injury that you're alleging, and see if you've either satisfied the criteria of the vaccine injury table, or you can prove that the vaccine caused your injury. Once we make it through that phase, the second phase is called the damages phase, where we determine how much compensation you're entitled to. In general, there's 3 types of compensation available. There's pain and suffering damages, where they try to compensate you for the severity of the injury, the impact that it's had on your daily life, things like that. There's out-of-pocket medical expenses, so anything not covered by insurance, you can get reimbursed for through this program. And then there's lost earnings, income, wages. If you've missed time from work due to this, whether it's because of the injury or for treatment for the injury, you can get that lost time or lost wages reimbursed. And that includes into the future as well. So if this is a permanent type injury where you're going to be out of work for an extended period of time, or you're going to be incurring medical expenses into the future, they do allow for future reimbursement of those costs and expenses as well. So it makes sense to hire an attorney for this for many different reasons, but the first and obvious one is that it's free. You're not going to pay an attorney anything to pursue a case in this program, because the attorney gets paid through the same fund that pays out compensation to petitioners. You're never going to see any bills or be asked to pay for costs. At least from our firm, we never send out any bills, or we never ask anybody to pay for costs or expenses, whether we're successful or unsuccessful in their case. Second, important reason to hire an attorney is that this program can be kind of confusing to navigate, and it helps to have an attorney know the types of injuries that can get compensated, the value of certain injuries and conditions, and how to work with the government and the Department of Justice to try and resolve your case. Most attorneys that work within this program will be familiar with the judges in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims, and they'll be familiar with the requirements for proving that you were injured by a vaccine. So again, it makes a lot of sense to hire an attorney to help you with this. If you or a loved one has experienced an injury or a side effect due to a vaccine, you can schedule a consultation with us. We'd love to go over options with you. You can call us at 312-578-9501.